During the Great Freeze of 1683, possibly the coldest winter in Britain's history,
That doesn't become what we know as a frost fair until 1608. The Thames see people tentatively coming onto the ice here, and a street's been formed by a series of shops and stalls along here.
It wasn't that it was much colder then. The reason has a lot to do with London Bridge. The old bridge was demolished in 1831. It had a lot more arches, slowing the river down. These days it flows too fast to freeze.
Have you ever wondered what it would be like to celebrate a festival on a frozen river? Could the Thames really support massive fairs on ice? Join us as we explore the mysterious and thrilling history of the Frost Fairs, a winter spectacle unlike any other. The Frost Fairs, a winter miracle or a risky illusion. The Thames River, a vital artery through the heart of London, has witnessed countless transformations throughout history. But one of its most curious, perhaps even unbelievable chapters unfolded during the harsh winters of the 16th to 19th centuries. During these bitterly cold months, the Thames froze over so completely that Londoners, yes, Londoners, celebrated massive festivals on the ice. The so-called Frost Fairs turned the frozen river into a chaotic carnival of revelry. Yet much like the icy surface itself, there was something dangerously fragile about these seemingly joyous occasions. Imagine this. The unforgiving grip of winter seizing hold of the river, turning its waters into a solid mass of ice. For days, sometimes weeks, no boat could pass through, and the currents that once carried life were halted by an impenetrable sheet of frozen water. During these rare occasions, the very river that had long been London's lifeblood was transformed into something almost unrecognizable. A site of commerce, culture, and entertainment, but also a spectacle that many skeptics couldn't quite believe. Could this frozen mass, seemingly fragile and dangerous, truly support an entire festival? The Frost Fairs were like nothing else. Imagine the smell of roasted meats, the sounds of carriages trundling over the ice, and the laughter of children skating and playing games. The fairs were a mishmash of attractions and vendors, ice skating races, gambling booths, animal shows, food stalls, and even impromptu stages for musicians and performers. One could find everything from rich feasts to poor folks trying their luck in games of chance. The river became a marketplace, a stage, and a meeting ground, capturing the essence of London's vibrant spirit. But the question remained, was it safe? Could the ice really bear the weight of crowds, horses, and even huge fires used to keep the revelers warm? Skeptics of the time were vocal. The idea that a massive, years-old river could freeze to the point where people could walk, skate, and even set up shop on it seemed to defy logic. What if the ice cracked, swallowing everyone into the frigid waters below? But for those who braved it, the thrill of the experience, combined with the sheer wonder of it all, proved irresistible. The dangers were real, but so were the rewards. This unlikely festival lasted for generations, ebbing and flowing with the temperatures, but it was not without its controversies. The Frost Fairs were not just a winter celebration. They were a reflection of a society that was willing to push the boundaries of nature itself. But as history would show, even the most seemingly stable of phenomena can crumble. Would the Frost Fairs survive? And what happened when the ice finally began to vanish for good? The answers to these questions, and the intriguing history of the Frost Fairs, remain just as elusive as the very ice that once made them possible. The thrills and perils of the Frost Fairs. For those who dared to step onto the frozen Thames, the Frost Fairs were more than just a temporary escape from the bitter cold. They were an unparalleled experience of freedom and chaos. At its peak, these fairs transformed the ice into a glittering, bustling playground that defied the usual limits of space and safety. Imagine wandering through a frozen city of fire pits, shops, and performers, where the usual laws of the land were suspended. Yet, for all the merriment, the dangers were ever present, lurking beneath the surface. It was not just the cold that made the fairs so dangerous. The ice itself was an unpredictable and volatile force. At times, thick enough to hold entire fairs, it would suddenly crack under the weight of too many revelers. The authorities, reluctant to intervene, often turned a blind eye, watching from a distance as people skated, danced, and drank with wild abandon on the ice. Ice merchants hawked their goods, but no one truly knew how deep the risk was. Every step on the river was a gamble. One wrong move and the ice could give way, plunging people into the freezing water below. Yet, The sheer audacity of the frost fairs made them more thrilling. Horse races were held on the ice, with riders pushing their steeds to the limit, narrowly avoiding cracks in the ice that threatened to swallow them whole. Spectators watched with bated breath as ice sculptures were crafted and colossal fires were built on the surface, burning brightly against the grey winter sky. It was a precarious spectacle, a moment of light in the dead of winter, yet one that always seemed to be on the verge of collapsing. One of the most remarkable features of the frost fairs was the culture of gambling that permeated the festivities.
Cattle were freezing to death, and the shortages of firewood meant that rich and poor alike were doing the same. But there was one place where a jollier atmosphere prevailed during this deadly cold snap, and that was on the frozen River Thames, which was home to a sprawling carnival-like frost fair, which began today in history.
People making their own entertainment on the ice is 1309, and people set a fire at that point, and there were some organised games. This is a temporary stage, and people would perform, orate, whatever they could think of that they thought might be a great entertainment and might get people to give them money.
Wagers were placed on anything from the outcomes of horse races to the number of steps a daring walker could take before the ice cracked beneath their feet. The smell of burning wood and roasted meats mixed with the tense anticipation in the air, as Londoners risked everything for the chance to win big, or simply to feel the rush of the gamble. But for every winner, there was the possibility of catastrophe. People could lose more than money. They could lose their lives. The fairs also attracted artists, musicians and performers from every corner of London, eager to capitalise on the strange, fleeting celebration. Travelling minstrels sang songs of the season, while jugglers and acrobats performed precarious feats on the ice. The very nature of the river, in all its frozen magnificence, inspired creativity and madness in equal measure. Some artists sketched the scenes of revellers and races, capturing the ephemeral nature of the moment. Yet for every piece of artwork made, there was the constant reminder that the Thames could, at any moment, reclaim what had once been its domain. The fair was, after all, a temporary illusion. But as these events carried on, an underlying question remained. How long could such a festival continue to defy nature? Could the ice, once considered an unyielding force, really be trusted? The answer would soon come, but it wasn't one that anyone had expected. The end of the frost fairs, a thawing memory. The frost fairs persisted throughout the 16th to the early 19th centuries, reaching their zenith during the Little Ice Age, when the cold winters were particularly severe. However, as the 19th century marched on, temperatures slowly began to rise. The Thames no longer froze as solidly as it once had. The last great frost fair took place in 1814, marking the end of an era, though no one at the time could have known it would be the final chapter of this extraordinary story. What caused the decline of the frost fairs? Some historians point to the gradual warming of Europe's climate, which, while subtle, rendered the conditions necessary for these massive ice festivals increasingly rare. Others suggest that the industrialisation of London played a role, with the city's pollution interfering with the freezing process, or that new transport systems, railroads and steamboats, reduced the dependence on the river, thus shifting the focus away from the Thames as a central hub for commerce and social activity. The very last Frost Fair, held in 1814, was both a spectacular finale and a foreboding sign of what was to come. As hundreds gathered on the ice that year, celebrating with their customary feasts and festivities, the river began to show signs of weakness. Small cracks appeared beneath the feet of revellers, and rumours spread that the ice might not be able to support the weight of the crowds. Despite the warnings, the fair continued until the ice finally gave way in some areas, leaving nothing but the memory of the spectacle. In the years that followed, the Thames would never again freeze in the same way. The fairs, once a symbol of resilience and daring, faded into legend. Londoners could no longer gather on the ice to share in the wild freedom of the frost fairs. And yet, as time marched forward, the fascination with these events never truly disappeared. They became a metaphor for a London that was constantly evolving, always balancing between the precariousness of nature and the human desire to master it. Today we look back at the frost fairs, not just as a curious historical anomaly, but as a testament to the lengths people were willing to go to celebrate life, even on the thin, cracking ice of uncertainty. The frost fairs may have been fleeting, but they left behind a rich legacy, one that continues to captivate us, reminding us of a time when the impossible became reality, even if just for a season. If you enjoyed this captivating journey through history, Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell for more incredible stories. Share your thoughts below. What do you think of the Frost Fairs?